Welcome everybody to our fourth community chat that we're now rebranding the Great Leaps Happy Hour. With myself, Colin Campbell, I do our marketing, and my dad, Ken, who is the author of Great Leaps with his 30-year teaching career and 25 years of running Great Leaps. The goal in these is just to have conversations with other educators and to kind of tap into my dad's experiences and wealth of knowledge and have discussions about different things with reading and education. And this time we're actually trying something new. I encourage everybody to stay here until the end, because we're going to do a bit of what do we call it, worthless trivia. So my dad is a wealth of worthless information sometimes, and we're gonna
true.
he's gonna pose a kind of riddle at the end of this, and we're gonna have a little bit of a competition with a $20 Amazon card reward to whoever can get the answer to him first, and then comes here next week or rather 2 weeks from today, to collect that reward. So hopefully it'll make it a little bit of fun. But yeah, we can start getting into it. Dad, I'll open, I guess, real quick just by listing the 6 that you had here, and then we can start diving into the first one.
All right.
So 6 critical elements of reading as per Ken Campbell. We have motivation, rapport, and relevance is the first. Phonological awareness is the second. Phonics is the third. High frequency words, story reading, and fluency with that. And then lastly, comprehension. So diving into motivation, rapport, and relevance. Success builds success is the first note I have there.
Well, Great Leaps, all these programs brand themselves as different things. But the cornerstone of everything I was taught in teaching and everything that worked for me, it goes back to a child, me having a rapport with that child. And I know that's a psychodynamic kind of Freudian word that I can't really measure that behavior, but it's the best word I got. I've got to get along with my kids, show I really like them, and I do, and do things which motivate them towards success. The more successes I get out of a kid, the better they perform. And I hope you see that in Great Leaps, that the whole cornerstone of what we do is first aimed at reading. And to get them reading as fast as humanly possible, a motivated student moves as fast as I know. So the cornerstone of a lot of what I do has to do with success breeding success, motivation, the child being motivated via something relevant to him or her. So that's a huge piece of what we do. And I think in education, it's often neglected. We're going to pay for that. Boy, are we going to pay for that. When we have students who really need real world experience in our rural and working communities, Algebra 2 as an absolute requirement for many of these students is irrelevant. Reading is relevant. Hands-on skills are often relevant. We've got to, in respect of our children and their needs, relevantly teach them. And reading, of course, is essential. A motivated kid in teaching, when you win and see these kids later, some stories of success. And boy, I'm going between 2 of my kids who are complete opposite to talk about, and then you can have a chance to share one of your wins. In my wins, I was a behavior disorders teacher. I've got Cynthia and I got Tim. Wow. Cynthia, I met as a beginning 6th grader in the 6th grade hall. She was holding back poor old Mrs. Clifton, who was on her last legs teaching. She didn't have long to go. She looks just like Justice Ginsburg. I'm not kidding you. So I've got Cynthia, 6 foot tall, lean and me, holding back Mrs. Clifton while beating up 2 8th grade girls who had come down the halls to attack her. Wow, that's an interesting girl. And look at her morals. She's protecting the old lady. That's one of my, that's a one. And then the other, her opposite is Tim. He and his partner were called Null and Void. Uh, the only guy I never ever met that got into behavior disorders for doing nothing. He really did nothing with a flare. He had failed 2 or 3 times. I'm going to go with Tim, little redneck Tim. I saved his life more than once. Tim, as an 8th grader, was nearing 16 years old at the end of 8th grade, and his parents came to me for his IEP meeting and wanted me to fail him. And wow, I oppose retention as almost a form of child abuse. But they talked me into it because what they said is, Tim's going to quit when he's 16. He's going to move to the high school and he ain't going to go. He hates it. He hates school. He likes your class. He hates school. Would you keep him till October or so when he has his birthday and quits? And that's interesting. So I did. And I taught Tim to read, and I taught him his timetables and fractions decimal. I had a great time teaching Tim. Didn't teach him to talk much, but so we did. I failed him as an IEP plan. Some strange, but first, that's a success when a family wants you. And they said he's gonna quit school because he's gonna be a truck driver. And you know what? Probably the best decision for him because he's going to quit and he's got a job. Years later, I taught college a long way away from where I lived. So you finish at 10 o'clock at night or so, and I had to drive down long, dark roads in the middle of nowhere between Bellevue, Florida, and Gainesville. On a dark road, a big truck behind me suddenly is kind of doing threatening things. Pulls up to me, as if he's passing. And I generally see a redneck in a cap and a big truck. And eventually he forces me kind of, not dangerously, forces me off the road. And so then he comes up and he's got one of these cheap caps you see in minute markets in the South that says, put your heart in Dixie or get your ass out. He's got one of those hats. He's chewing tobacco, and oh my God, I'm a dead man. I only got $3 in my wallet. I'm a teacher. And suddenly I hear these magical words, Mr. Campbell, it's Tim. And until, and then I won't say his last name. And I go, oh, really? He says, yeah. I recognize teachers keep cars forever. He could grow up and become a already ass car. So he recognized my car and the gator stickers and all that on it probably. But the whole Mr. Campbell, it's Tim. I talked a few minutes. He's got his own trucking company. You know what? Failing him was the right thing to do. We do our kids one at a time. That's my story of a motivated kid and the power of motivation, success, getting to know your kids and giving them as a caring teacher what they need, not what the system tells you they need. Not even what my own heart tells me I need. My heart tells me failing kids, child abuse. Well, that got misproven to me because he wanted failed so he could get that which was relevant, which was not going to be offered to him. Anybody else got a winning story for us about what motivation does for you, your kids, your life?
I'll give at least a quick one for my own life, and coming from the world of sports, and I think it's in learning, there's similar things like daily practice, right, between sports and reading that's going to benefit you hugely either way. And when I think about how I was with basketball, for example, when I was motivated and I liked this sport, right, when I would come home after practice, I would still be shooting the ball. I would still practice dribbling. And I would imagine it's a similar thing with reading. Once the kid makes that great leap kind of into seeing how reading can open them up to like a world of entertainment and, take them different places, and they start now reading on their own, you're going to see that growth continue in a similar way, I think. Marie, I see you have yours unmuted. Do you have a story for us?
Yeah, I had this girl by the name of Clara, and her parents were worried about her. She wasn't reading, and she she was put on great leaps. I think that was the best thing for her. And she liked the motivation. The only thing she didn't like is that our time came during morning meeting in our responsive classroom, and just about the time they were about to play the game.
Oh.
So I looked at her and I said, Clara, I don't have to be here. I want to be here. And I don't want to take you out of the game. However, this is the best thing that can happen for you. So why don't you stick it out for a couple weeks, see how you feel, and I'll ask you how it is. And I never had to ask her. She just kept coming, and she got talked to by the teacher, go. And I met her a couple 3 years later, and she came up and just hugged me in the hall. She was wearing glasses, which we said she needed because she was having trouble tracking. And she just hugged me and she says, "Oh, I am reading." And I said, "Great." And I had a bunch of first graders around me who were looking at me like, what's going on here? And I picked out a kid who was very recalcitrant about reading. And I said, "Clara, why don't you tell this young man about the benefits of learning reading from me?" And she was all grown up about it, and I was working on a different program, but I was using techniques similar to what I was taught. So and other kids were listening, so they were going, "Oh."
Yeah, it gets the intrigue going. That's great.
And this is a big girl. I mean, first graders, little kids, they want to emulate older kids. So this was a big deal.
Yeah, that's a great story. Yeah, we love. I mean, when my dad first told me that story about Tim and the idea of kids kind of coming back to their teachers and being like, "Man, what you did for me," and being excited about that. That's such a cool thing to hear. And I appreciate. Thank you for sharing that. Do you want to go on to phonological awareness next, Dad?
I'll do it very quickly. First, just when we speak of this as professionals, half the world thinks we're talking phonics. So let's make sure we define, when they hear us use that word, we make sure our audience understands that we're really talking about that process in which words. What is a word? That's where I would usually begin. What is a word? And I can even think about that from a kid's point of view. How are you? What's up? Hello. Well, in your brain, that's all the same stuff. But one of them, how are you? That's 3 words. What's up? That's sort of 2 words. And hello is 1 word. So we can teach them even to tap words. And real early, a kid will tap hello as 2 taps. And we have to then teach hello. So teaching what a word is, and then moving all the way into phonemes. Phonemic awareness also has phonological awareness phonological awareness also is made up of phonemic and morphemic awareness. So phonemes are sounds and morphemes are beginnings and endings. So we just have to kind of teach that stuff out. And many of our kids from language rich backgrounds get most of it from home. Sadly, people don't read Mother Goose anymore, so rhyming is getting more and more difficult to teach. But you get a lot of phonological awareness at home, but that's a pre-reading thing that we work on in the classrooms, and it's done verbally and can be done with fun. Then we can get into morphemes, and that's where a fun activity I'm gonna just suggest for everybody, because some already knew what a Spoonerism is. And good old Dr. Spooner, I even found his first name here, Archibald.
Archibald Spooner.
From Oxford. He had this disability. He probably got banged on his head too. He had this disability where he transferred phonemes. And somehow, through some kind of Celtic magic, any transfer he ever did made sense. And so and there's millions of them, I think. I think he couldn't talk without doing it. I don't know how he was a professor, but he was. Probably everybody enjoyed his world. But as he was called to introduce Queen Victoria to his colleagues at Oxford, his introduction was basically, Madam, sir, may I introduce our queer old dean? And he was forever famous for spoonerisms. He
Yeah.
should have said, dear old queen. And so here's some fun. I'm going to do some spoonerisms with food. And if you can think of any, throw them in. But, and if you can guess, turn on your mic and pull it in. What are stickin' trips? We got Marie.
Chicken strips.
There
How
you
about
go.
how about some Wiccan chings?
Chicken wings. I got that one.
Yeah. How about some Waffalo bings?
Oh, buffalo wings. That took a second.
Here's my favorite one. Are you ready? Peel dickles.
Dill pickles.
There you go.
Aren't they fun?
Yeah, that I imagine kids have a lot of fun with. Are there other, or what other, just out of curiosity, types of exercises like are in that language growth around phonological awareness? Like
Well,
other ways to play with words, I guess.
there's not a whole lot of playing in there. So the playing piece to make it fun, I use songs with activities. And what I like children doing is playing with language and thinking what you're going to say while doing something else, getting these circuitries going. Like a fun one, and I may have mentioned this before, is first day of class, I like to do a name game song, like Colin, you're so fine, you blow my mind. Hey, Colin, you name somebody. And then you go around through the class. And so what you got the kids doing is singing and thinking, I hope they pick me. I hope they don't pick me. Who am I going to pick if they pick me? And it's fun, and it also lets the kids know each other's names. So that's just some game playing ideas to get language going, to get rhymes going, and other things, making phonological awareness fun and an activity. The more kids you've got in language activities, not from 2 or double the power of by yourself or with one kid. If I can get 5 or 6 kids together working together with language and phonological awareness, I have a better group. So I like phonological awareness activities to be group activities because it's so language oriented. And you can see, because of an activity, if you're tapping words, that can be a cool one. How do you tap? I can have them tap with their pencil. I can have them tap by clapping. So how many words do you hear? I'm here. Ooh, that's a tough one because of Southern accent. Did I do 3 words or 2? I am here, because I am and I'm almost done the same, and we can talk about that.
And it also ties it back to that first point of relevance, trying to make those activities fun in language, or trying to do something to make it relevant is gonna, get better learning.
Well, I move on to phonics because the biggest thing about phonological awareness is, one, it's an essential, and it's often an essential that comes early in life through home life and rich language environments. And many of our children do not have rich language environments. So they have huge phonological awareness difficulties, and that being one of the real underlying foundations of reading, that lack of phonological awareness hurts. A lot of ways to get to it. Reading David Kilpatrick is one way, with a lot of good ideas and insight into phonological awareness and its critical importance. How we measure it and all, I'm not a proponent of standardized testing that takes long amounts of time from our children. I'm a proponent of teaching teachers so they know what it is and can hear it and test for it on their own and determine needs on their own through your own power and experience. So I'm not one of those people that want hours and hours and dollars spent on formal testing. I think your experience and your power and your expertise can solve a whole lot of that. And you'll know, if you know your kids, you'll often, if you really know them, you'll know what they need. Phonics is a real interesting thing, because Great Leap started during the Phonics Wars, where if you believed in phonics back then, you were considered basically a right-wing Nazi fanatic in many places. which is bizarre because this is just the way I teach and reading. It's bizarre for you to make political assumptions based on just about anything I say, especially educationally. I believe in phonics. It's got nothing to do with my politics, religion, or any of that. It has everything to do with my teaching and the makeup of our language. I believe our language is 70% phonologically perfect, and it's certainly good enough. So if you got a background in phonics, you can, spell check will come to your rescue if you're typing a word and misspell it. I believe phonics is necessary, but not essential for most kids. There we go again. Now I got my own allies mad at me.
Oh yeah, you made an interesting point that I had only heard from you that made total sense of languages that use symbols and stuff in their writing. That's a totally different concept than phonics.
But they read and they read. So when an extreme phonics fanatic, and that fanatic is with an F, not a PH, when a strong phonics fanatic attacks me, and they do this for saying not all children need phonics, and you can read without phonics. I've had people say, "Oh, you cannot read without phonics. Go to China." I'm sorry, I can show you 2 billion people that can read without phonics. It doesn't mean it's not necessary and it's not essential. Don't bore kids with phonics. Phonics is important. Here is where you as professionals, especially those who believe in Orton Gillingham strongly, and it's great science, but here's where you need to watch. When you do not get movement through a phonics intervention and you've given it your best, what's going on? We do have children out there, many of them have had head injuries, who do not respond to phonics interventions. So if you fail with Wilson, with a child, and you're a great tutor, and you move to Sunday, or a lot of the others, they're Orton Gillingham phonics programs. In my opinion, you are trying to now treat a virus with an antibiotic. I did not say antibiotics are bad. It's not working. When something doesn't work, my job in behavior is find out why. Not, I call this screaming at the deaf man. Retention goes to the same thing. We fail people so you can do another year of the same deal. It's not making sense. You continually think about what you're doing, why you're doing. Get out. I've got to get out of my philosophical box sometimes. We've got to get out of our philosophical box to meet the needs of the child. And we had a whole talk on that. Focusing, what does this child need? If we think he needs phonics, but we can't get it, well, maybe he doesn't need phonics. What does he really, what's the big picture? Let's hone in on the bullseye. What's the bullseye here? He needs to read. That's your bullseye. He does not need phonics as the bullseye. Phonics is a skill on the way to the bullseye.
All right.
He needs to read. What do I do if I can't teach via phonics? Okay, it's easily figurable. There have been many kids. I was in Moline, Illinois. They combined up 3 states for an International Dyslexia Association conference. And I think it was expensive to attend. And the parents who were there were very, they had to drive a long way. And they were very concerned, caring, loving parents about their child's problems in dyslexia. I like to have tables at these conferences. So when you can talk to most people without looking like you're trying to pick them up. They're almost all women. So if I'm at a table, I got a real reason to be there and talk to people. If I'm just walking around wanting to talk to people about their kids, that's uncomfortable for me. So I get to talk to people. I like to have a table to talk to people. And so in Moline, these parents were talking about everything's failing with their kids. And I know they're involved. I know they're caring. I know you can just tell these are great parents. And they're doing their best, and they're not reaching their kids' needs with the interventions they had been trained and wanted to believe in. Half of those parents that I talk to, the first question I ask when I hear what I call a flat chart, no movement for it can be a relatively long period of time, and you're not getting movement in phonics, especially, I'll ask, has there ever been a head injury? A very, very high fever? I'm looking for brain injury stuff, because if that piece of the brain that's working with phonics has been blasted, you're basically wasting your time if your objective is to get a kid reading and you're using a phonics way to get there. And so I'm hearing an inordinate number of children who had failed from phonics. They had backgrounds which involved pretty severe concussions, and it was not in their social reports. And when you ask the parents, why isn't this available to us? The answer generally was, the doctor said it'd be okay. And it happened at age 2. They didn't think it'd have an impact on reading. It's happened more than once. The second thing I look at is also seizure-related activity can hit there, and then high fevers. If you hear a child that's had a high fever, 104, 105, 107, 100, that can also have major implications on reading. So if phonics isn't working, our job is to have a lot of tools in our bag. My objective is not to do whatever it takes to get the deaf man to hear. My objective is to teach the child to read in this area. So phonics, wonderful, important, not essential. 30% of our children, especially the children of poverty and need, require, and those with learning disabilities, require phonics. When California, in the first wave, one of the giant waves of whole language, California threw out all phonics and proceeded to move to number 50 in state reading scores.
Lisa, do you have a note real quick?
Yeah, something to piggyback off of what Ken was saying there. I have one of my students who is living proof that phonics is a tool, but not everybody's going to be able to use it well. He's on phonics probe 20, phrases probe 20, and stories 41. Now, if this kid graduates the program without finishing phonics, if he finishes stories first, he's riding the bicycle. I don't care that he's not going to be a phonics student. Of course, I'm trying to teach him phonics, but he's using other skills, other tools in his tool bag to be making regular, frequent goals with reading. And I thought that was pretty cool in relation to what your dad was saying, that, yeah, some of them are not. Sometimes we need to look for other tools.
Colin, I think of my granddaughter, Linda, who in her scores, phonics, she was on like what I would call first grade phonics passages while on third and fourth grade stories. So if you were only holding her back in her reading to what she could pass with her phonics skills, we would have had that little girl still on first grade, really boring stuff. She's got a high IQ, first grade level stuff, when she had the complete potential. That's why we divide things out. People have always wanted me to have all probes connected, that your phonics probe, your first story is going to be what you can do in phonics with the words, with the high frequency words you're using, that they all three need to combine up. Sorry, Charlie, these are 3 independent variables, and kids move at 3 different speeds.
With reading being
one of those.
Yeah, the stories being the primary goal, right? Is
Yes.
to get the progress and growth within the stories using the skills from phonics and high frequency words, which, I don't know, it's been half an hour now. Did you want to touch on high frequency words?
Well, yeah, we can work
open
right
it up
into
to
that.
questions, or
let me do one thing on phonics. When a kid is reading to me a probe and hits an unknown word, and I can see that child trying to sound it out, I'm not going to break in and immediately correct that that's a mistake. I'm going to reinforce that and help them sounding out that word. But nor am I going to take 27 seconds for them to try to figure out what that word is. We'll work on that later. High frequency words, boy, I'm reading Kilpatrick's work. I just finished a section last week where it said 7. If you encounter a word 7 or so times, you're going to know that word. Guess what? Not true in high frequency words. How can I say it's not true? Because I worked with kids side by side, just like you guys are doing with Great Leaps, side by side, working with kids in person with their reading and focused on their reading. High frequency words, that's half of our words. My kids could read words like Tyrannosaurus and couldn't read and would miss of. Okay, that's bothering me. So being a precision teacher, what I did was create words in isolation probes that had all of those words. I could get kids moving at speeds you would not believe. Over 100 words a minute, 1 word at a time, and that's not easy to do with no errors. It did not impact error rates on high frequency words in there. to what I needed at all, not even close. The errors maintained. I taught those words in isolation, the errors maintained, and we're still having people thinking the flashcard way is going to work. They know the word, they kept missing the word, so the problem was not knowing the word. That is where I had to think, what can I do? After I knew high speeds failed, what do I do? So I thought of two things. How I learned a foreign language. I did not learn it one word at a time. Je m'appelle Ken. Comment allez-vous? Sprechen Sie English? Sprechen Sie Deutsch? I didn't learn the little bits of language I know one word at a time. I learned them in phrases. Now I thought I'm a typist. I learned to type ASDFJKL semicolon over and over and over, then became words, then become combinations, then became words, one word at a time. And as I become proficient, I move from words to phrases. I'm not typing words anymore. I type phrases. That thinking, that collision of disparate ideas leads to creativity. So the creativity I thought of, let's put them in phrases and see what happens. Bingo, error rates dramatically went down. Dramatically. Bingo, we're there. Now I'd still been taught through Dr. Mercer and many others to teach these words in first and second graders in isolation. I've been taught that and did it for Great Leaps for 20 something years. It's still going on. Our data began telling us it's wrong. Wow. Data talks. I'm listening. When I could put two words together, am I am, is he, into phrases like that, I suddenly start seeing not only am I teaching the word, I'm chunking. We're chunking words. That's how we read. And they're also, we've thrown in intonation. So huge benefits, and we move faster. And they're learning the words. And there's a lot of critique and craziness going on the learning of high frequency words right now. I'm not calling them sight words anymore because it's in the middle of being redefined. They're calling now a sight word any word you know immediately when you read it. And so, wow, confederation is a sight word? So it's the definition has changed on us.
Yeah, I was going to say we may do one of these talks just on the approach and impact of the sight or the phrases section and importance of those high frequency words. But since we're at a little over half an hour now, I just wanted to completely open it up, see if anybody had questions. We'll save the next two, which is fluency and comprehension. I mean, those are huge things for our next talk. But I guess I just want to open it up real quick. Did anybody have any questions, notes, or stories about these kind of first four components that we looked at? Motivation, phonological awareness, phonics, high frequency words.
All right, no buzzers lighting. So what's your favorite high frequency word? Mine is were. That's the number one mistake of besides A, N, and the, which don't count. Were is the word that seems to be, and we're getting this from 10,000. We get the data on every word missed. So now watching those high frequency word misses to see what's the one they're still missing the most. It happens to be were. Yeah. That's my favorite high frequency word. My favorite phrase.
Looks like Maria has something real quick. I'll let her jump in.
I didn't see the light. There it is.
That's okay. When I was in first grade, I had an excellent teacher. All the girls were in the highest reading group, of course. So we got
I remember.
Yeah, so we got the harder stuff. But what she would do is she would give us word cards if we missed a word, if we didn't say it right away, a sight word. And I got mixed up on, guess what? Were and where.
Yeah.
Those were the only two cards I ever got. And I made darn sure after that, I never got any more cards. Because some of the boys had a shoebox full of cards. I'm not kidding. I have always been competitive. And my biggest opponent is myself. So I made it my business to be able to read. We have to know our children, and our students. We have to know what motivates them, what
Bingo.
do they care about, and that's why I'm so generous with end of the year presents.
How do you make a loser in reading a winner? Well, with especially a competitive child that's been a loser, how do you make them a winner? Compete against yourself. Because the worst you're going to get is a tie. So you're constantly winning or tying with great leaps. You just are. So that's been put out. Sabotage. Those of you who are working with groups, one of the big things we have to do is get rid of sabotage. When the new guy comes into the room, he's the lowest guy often. And the other kids, it's the pecking order. They're going to try to diss this kid and make them feel bad. The last thing I need. So what I do is I become the big bad guy in the room. And one of the things we see is I had different thermometers and games going on. Each time a goal got met, the thermometer moves up toward 1. So there's going to be a group contingency reward for busting the top out of that sucker. And I'm constantly harassing the kids on that. But a new kid that comes in is going to get goals faster than anybody else. So suddenly in their competition with me, I'm going to give the new kid trouble. You think I'm made out of money? Can't afford a pizza party. Did I say pizza party? I really meant we're going to have a lifesaver party where you get to pick your, So I get the kids all riled up, all going again. But the new kid becomes part of the team and I can be the bad guy. And sabotage, they love to pick the loser and focus on them and destroy them. We have to destroy sabotage through our placement. Sabotage goes on all over the place. My room, when they gave me a room, that cannot be the classroom where the losers go. I have to destigmatize it. So I had Friday Jeopardy contests where kids could invite their best buddy to come in and play Jeopardy with us. And all that's basic skills reinforcement. So kids would want to know, how do you get into that room? I destigmatize it. I said, what you do is you do a formal application in the guidance office, and they select worthy students to be here. So you do things to destigmatize. So my kids become winners, feel better, and we were the Jeopardy champions of the middle school, taking on to 6th grade, 7th grade, and 8th grade. Mr. Campbell's behavior disorders classroom won every time because we teach the proficiency and automaticity. So if I have times tables for 40, 8 times 7, 56, Campbell, score. All right. Capitals for 100, Iowa, Des Moines, whoa. All my kids have been taught to automaticity on basic skills, and they all become winners of destigmatizing. It's a part of teaching that's essential fun. And as Marie was putting out, it's caring about knowing and caring about your kids. That's huge. Knowing and caring about your kids. And we're all into teaching and reading, which to me is the absolute most essential skill we've got. People are not in prison because they don't know their timetables. They're certainly filling up because we have no place for them because they cannot read. Hey, can we talk about our impossible contest?
Yeah, I was gonna say, speaking of Jeopardy, that was a good kind of transition there. We're gonna each week we do these, every other week on a Friday. We want it to kind of have some positivity and fun element to it. So given that, like I said earlier, my dad is the king of worthless trivia. He was able to come up with a number of these things, like, right off the bat, just right when we kind of had come up with this idea. And so the winner, basically, I'll lay out the rules, Dad, and then I'll let you put the challenge out there. So the rules for you guys, his email is just ken@greatleaps. First person that can send him the email with the proper answer will be the winner, but you have to be here in the next meeting to collect your prize, which will be we'll do a digital Amazon gift card of $20.
Oh, make it 25.
$25.
Make it an even number. I love it when I say an even number, 25. Yeah.
So we'll do a $25 Amazon gift card code to the first person who can email Ken at Great Leaps the proper answer to this. Yeah, greatleaps.com, of course. The proper answer to his this weird, worthless trivia question he has. So
first, is anybody here Southern? Hit your buzzer if you're Southern. Your buzzer.
I see Janet has a Kentucky sweater on her picture. Maybe that's a little bit of Southern.
Well, if you're Southern, you'll have an advantage on question number 1. It won't be an advantage on every time, because you can be Scottish and not be Southern. So my first question, and we were making sure this isn't Google stuff. My first question is, I'm going to give you a pronunciation, and it's Southerners can use double and triple apostrophes all the time in our world. So I want you to spell me, and then give me a sentence. And I've already warned you, it's got 2 apostrophes in the correct spelling. The pronunciation is, and I'll be careful and give it to you a few times if you need it, Jaws. Just like the shark movie. Jaws. To win, the $25 is coming out of my own pocket, and I'm Scottish. Oh. You spell it for me correctly and use it in a sentence.
The hint on this one was is this one a triple or a double contraction?
Wait a minute, let me see. It's triple.
It's triple, okay.
It's triple. It's got three, and I even looked up. It's not in. If you Google triple contractions, they're all Southern, by the way. And I didn't use any of them. I think some Yankee put those triple contractions up there, because I hadn't heard any of those words used. And we use triple contractions all the time. Just can't make it to Google World yet. But this is the easiest one I've heard all my life. I can use it in a sentence easily. And I don't know if you'll get it, but if nobody gets it in 2 weeks, I'll give you some more hints. And
we'll double the pot.
We'll go all the way to Christmas on this, and it'll keep doubling just like the lottery. So if nobody gets it in 2 weeks, I'll give some hints, and it'll be $50. And if nobody gets it, give some hints, it'll be $75. And we've got other ridiculous, meaningless trivia that you can't Google.
Yeah, I had some fun talking about these earlier. It should be interesting. But do you want to give, since there's not a whole lot of Southerners in our crowd, I guess, a hint or an example of another triple contraction, I guess, to...
No.
No, okay.
That's my
Fair enough. That's your next one? All right.
I'll give you a double real quick. Making sure it's not a triple. Wouldn't have.
Okay.
Wouldn't you have loved to come? Wouldn't have. I wouldn't have loved to come. Wouldn't you? Boy, that's almost a triple or quadruple, but I have to spell it and take a look.
Cool.
Verbal language is very different than written language. And dialects are fun. And I hope Jaws, I hope somebody can figure it out, because it's such a, and I triple checked the pronunciation that I did pronounce this absolutely correctly, as I would hear this if I were
in Micanopy
at a truck stop listening. Boy, you got a hint.
Yeah. Well,
any other goodies before we go?
I think that pretty much wraps it up, unless anybody has any last minute questions. But if you have ideas for other talks for these meetings, let us know. But next week, we're going to wrap up the other 2, which is fluency and comprehension. But yeah, thank you guys for coming. I appreciate it. And, let us know if there's any way we can get people more involved. Maria, I really appreciate you sharing stories with us. But if there's any other ideas on how to get kind of more discussion and conversation going, send it our way. My email is colin.c@greatleaps.com, or send it to my dad, Ken, at greatleaps.com. And yeah, with that, I guess we'll close it out. Appreciate it. Hope everybody has a good weekend.
Thanks, and contact me for any kind of help you need.